Okay, so I'm at the gym the other day, and I get to this part in the workout where I have to go to a back room where there's a rack of barbells that I use. And I walk in the room and I see that there's one other person there, and it's a woman. She's on a yoga mat doing stretches. Unfortunately, she's set up like 3 feet from the front of the barbell rack that I'm going to use. And immediately I start thinking to myself, why does she have to set up in such an inconvenient place? But then I thought, well, should I get a barbell and just take it to another part of the room so that she doesn't think that I'm looming over her? And I thought, well, on the other hand, why should I have to move? I don't intend her any harm, and frankly, she is set up in an inconvenient place where I'm going to stand. And I think, well, that doesn't seem right. She was here first, and why should I have any special claim to this spot? Especially if it might appear to her like I'm a potential threat. Yeah, but still, I think it's going to be a pain to get the barbell and take it to another side of the room. And so I'm going back and forth and back and forth, and I don't ever actually get a chance to make a decision because as soon as I pick up the barbell, she gathers her stuff and she leaves. And somehow I felt like she probably left because she didn't feel comfortable in such close proximity to a big hairy guy with a barbell in his hand and nobody else around. And then I felt like a jerk because, do I want to live in a world where the first thing that other people have to do in a situation like that is to size me up as a potential threat? I couldn't stop thinking about it. The whole thing felt really wrong to me. And I realized that my first response, my first instinct was to carve out my own space and make her adjust herself and her concerns for my convenience. What does that say about me? That my knee-jerk response is to think that my convenience is more important than hers. But even more depressing than that is that my knee-jerk reaction was about me rather than about empathy for her. I'm supposed to be a follower of Jesus, right? Which means that my encounters with other people are, first of all, supposed to be about my creatively imagining the worlds that they inhabit instead of how it is that they're bit players in my own private psychodrama. Don't I owe it to her to take some extra time to try to understand her experience of the world? An experience in which her knee-jerk response of suspicion and fear seems justifiable. People like me have created a world for ourselves for our own convenience. And out of a sense of self-preservation, she has to live with fear in that world. One that I get to take for granted is pretty safe. And it is pretty safe for people like me. But there are a whole lot of other people who don't have the luxury of taking that safety for granted, which I think is what's behind all this mishigas about NFL players taking a knee. African American players are trying to draw attention to a world in which people of color are dying at the hands of police. A world white people get to take for granted is fairly safe from police brutality. And what's the knee-jerk response by so many to this pained cry of protest? Hey, this is our world. And in our world, people like you have to play by rules that reinforce our belief that the world we've created for ourselves is fair and just. And if you've got problems with that, it's because there's something wrong with you. You need to adjust yourselves to concerns for our convenience. And if you don't adjust, we'll bring out our most potent symbols, flags, national anthem, military deaths, to make you adjust. I mean, we're not playing here. This stuff makes us really uncomfortable, and you guys are just going to have to stop. And you know what's a damn shame? I hear Christians saying this kind of thing. Yeah, the people who are supposed to love others the way Christ loved them, the people who are not supposed to think more highly of themselves than they ought to, those people who are supposed to, in humility, regard others as better than themselves. Yeah, those people. The ones who follow Jesus and who are called first to imagine the world that others inhabit before thinking of themselves and their own convenience. How can Christians hear the cries of wounded people who are forced to live in fear, adjusting themselves to our view of a safe and just world? I mean, how can we hear those cries and think only about which symbols will be powerful enough to drown them out? Just because we find those cries inconveniently challenge the world we've built for ourselves. Cries that plead with us to adjust ourselves to a different world than the one we're comfortable with, to see things through other people's eyes. How is this not the first reaction for people who follow Jesus in situations like this? Come on, Jesus expects more from us. Look, I didn't write the book. I'm just telling you what's in it.